Joe Dolan isn't dead, he's just having a break. For a minute there, I thought of the Joe Dolan concert. Oh, parallel universe. Fair play to him. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have the interval in a minute, so hopefully before you go for your wine, and before you buy your program, you've bought your program, can we pay tribute to Dr. Paul Kenna, who worked tirelessly for Fighting Blindness for over 40 years. Not here tonight, but instead we have from Trinity College, Jane Farrar, and remember this name, Peter Gorey!
Testing. Hello. Okay, first of all, thank you everyone for coming along this evening. Okay, hugely appreciated. So, yeah, Paul Kenna has been looking into my eyes in a professional way for many years, and yeah, he's just a kind, caring, compassionate human being who. Sometimes tells me things that I really do not want to know, okay, but, when Paul is giving me that information, I know that it's coming from the right place, coming from his heart, and, I wouldn't want anyone else to be telling me these things, so, he's calling it quits this year, after many years of dedicated service. He will be sorely missed, so, just a little presentation to his wonderful, beautiful colleague, Professor Jane Farrar of Trinity College. So on his behalf, Jane, and all the patients, to Paul, and Miss Jane, so Miss Jane to take 2 more words. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I know Paul will be so touched. He's just so humble that actually it seems kind of appropriate he's not here, bizarrely. He's such a humble human being. So there are no words when you try and conjure up somebody that's so unique and wonderful as Paul. He's been such a great colleague for so many decades in genetics in Trinity, in the Royal Victoria Eye and Ear Hospital. I started the journey of trying to find causes of eye disease in 1985 with Dave McConnell. Pete Humphreys joined in 1986, and Paul Kenna joined in 1987. And at that point, we thought there were 3 genes or pieces of DNA that caused the disease. We understand now there are more than 500. We were very naive, actually, one of those years ago. And Paul brought a unique ability to the team. Not just his eye specialist ability, but his patient-centric view. He kept all of us in Trinity on track to be patient-centric in everything that we do. I travelled around Ireland with Paul initially, tracing families, drinking hundreds of cups of tea, I have to say, meeting wonderful people in wonderful families, the odd glass of port as well, actually, it must be said. And I realised at that time, so early on, that we had found a unique, special person, passionate about his work, patient-focused, patient-centric, and who always put others first. We were so lucky in Trinity to work with him. And some of the team are here, but Paul isn't. We have Arpad and Anna and Naomi, and we have Yulia and Sinead and Vilta and many others sitting in the audience. We are working on understanding the genetics behind eye disease, understanding, our genetics. And it's amazing. We are so complex, actually. We're made of 40 trillion cells. And in every cell, you have 3 billion letters of DNA code. That's 1 million pages of a book inside every one of your 40 trillion cells. So we are awesome in the absolute true meaning of the word awesome. And that DNA code is very similar between all of us. But it's the little differences that Paul and the team have been trying to track on to find the causes of eye disease. And so when I think about our absolutely wonderful Paul Kenna, in biological terms. I think of 40 trillion cells packed full of talent, of capability, but of kindness. Buckets and buckets of kindness and more kindness and more kindness. That's what Paul is. He's such a humble person. He's so generous of spirit that gives time to everyone. Not just to his patients and loads of time, but to us, his colleagues, when we nag him with questions. He's there for us, to his family, his friends. If there were kindness genes in our genome, in our DNA, Paul has got a bucket of them, for sure. He's got an abundance of kindness genes. And he never wants acknowledgement for anything he ever does. And that's why, as I said, it's appropriate somehow that he isn't actually here at the moment. But he's going to hear this. It's recorded, and he's going to hear this message for sure. In Trinity, we simply do not know what we would do without Paul. We're still persuading him to stay, by the way. We're still working on that rather than have him retire. And still working on that one. He has been the bedrock of all our clinical and genetic studies. He is the bedrock of all our clinical and genetic studies. However, lest you might think Paul is actually perfect in every way, you know, timekeeping is a very interesting concept with Paul Kenna, for sure. It certainly couldn't be considered his strong point. We're often in the middle of an experiment and we ring him up in the Iron Hospital and we say, "Oh, Paul, when will you be back?" He said, "I'll be there in a few minutes." And we know to leave at least 2 hours before he arrives. And that's for a very simple reason, because he's with his patients. And he gives everybody his time, generously, unconditionally. He has given, over these 40 years, a lot of 7-day weeks working, a lot of late nights. I can ring Paul at 11 o'clock at night. I shouldn't, I guess, but I sometimes do. But I can, at any time. He's accessible 24/7, which is just phenomenal. So I just want to conclude with a little remark, a wise remark, I think, from the Dalai Lama, which is so apt for our beautiful Paul Kenna. And that is, be kind wherever possible. It is always possible. And actually, Paul is always, always kind. And so, you know, it has been truly one of the most important honours and privileges of my entire life to call the great, the wonderful Prof. Kenna a friend and a colleague. Thank you.